Wolves 2, Aston Villa 0. And if there's ever a game to tell you why Villa need more squad depth and why Unai Emery wants more players in his squad, this is exactly why. Aston Villa have lost 4 games after a Champions League game, and the only team that they've beat after playing midweek, ironically, was Wolves at home. Again, I think this game epitomised exactly why Aston Villa need signings. They need more squad depth. With playing midweek, it takes a lot out of you, and today absolutely showed that. I mean, if we look at some of the statistics across the game, it was a poor game. Aston Villa absolutely controlled the game. Let's not lie about it. Wolves defended brilliantly. Aston Villa had the majority of the ball, but they didn't create very much, and that's the worrying thing. The play from the thirds, getting out the first third to the second third, getting in the middle third was quite good. But once they reached that middle third, that's where they couldn't find that cutting edge. They didn't really create any clear-cut chances. Wolves went 1-0 up, thoroughly deserved their lead. And if we look at the first half statistics, Wolves' expected goals mostly came from the first half. They created 1.4 expected goals, quality and chances, compared to Villa's 0.08. That's not good enough for Aston Villa. Aston Villa just didn't come out the blocks in that first half. 4 big chances to Wolves, to Aston Villa 0 big chances. 6 shots to Wolves, to Aston Villa's 3. Despite Aston Villa having much of the ball, they were very passive in possession today, I thought. And I thought it's a little bit of 2 sets of things, really. And I know I can't really speak about Aston Villa, and I didn't know what to say on this video because I'm not an Aston Villa fan, so I find it hard to criticise a club that I don't support. So when I speak about Aston Villa, I'm not criticising them, I'm just giving you my general thoughts on how the game went. So take that in mind when I say stuff like this. But I did think Unai Emery got his tactics wrong and his personnel wrong. I think starting Garcia in a game like this, when you know you're going away to a rival, a Midlands rival, it's going to be fierce, it's going to be a battling type of game, it's going to be feisty. It's not a game to make his debut in. I'm sorry, it's really not. And I think Unana should have started today. But if we have a look at the average positioning for Aston Villa, this is where I think Unai Emery got it wrong. Wolves play with the back 3, so they compact the midfield. So they want to win the midfield battle. They want to overrun you in midfield, want to force you out wide. Use that width to your advantage. Morgan Rogers was playing as a right winger, let's say. Look at his average positioning. He was coming inside a lot, playing alongside Ollie Watkins. And Garcia was a one to provide width, but he wasn't giving you that offensive creativity. So I would have liked to see Morgan Rogers play out there a bit more. I would have liked to see Jacob Ramsey playing these positions a bit more because that's where you get around Wolves. And if you remember when Newcastle beat them 3-0 at home, Newcastle didn't play great on that day. They just played to Wolves' weaknesses. And I feel like Aston Villa could have done that today and they would have got a lot more joy, a lot more success from Wolves. But when we speak about the game, like I say, this is a perfect example of why Aston Villa need more squad depth. They need more bodies. Yes, they've got a great starting 11. And I personally think Rashford, if he does arrive, doesn't walk straight in this team because Jacob Ramsey's got enormous quality. Morgan Rogers got enormous quality. Ollie Watkins, he's been there, done it for Aston Villa, so he's not going to take Ollie Watkins' position. But again, I think this epitomizes exactly why Aston Villa need more squad depth. It's quite similar to Newcastle United. I watched Newcastle today, and it was a very similar performance. Wasteful in possession, making the wrong decisions, taking control for large parts of the games without any end product. They clearly just couldn't create any cutting chances. Take nothing away from Wolves because they defended very, very well. But I think Aston Villa just looked leggy today. When you're playing in the Champions League, it's all good playing in the Conference League when you can make changes. But when you're relying on your starting 11 for the Champions League and the Premier League week in, week out, game after game with minimal rest, this is what you get once in a while. And I think the statistics are showing it. Aston Villa have lost 4 games after a Champions League night. So the statistics prove that Aston Villa do need more squad depth. But like I mentioned earlier, personally, I do think Unai Emery got it wrong with his tactics, as I've just identified. Garcia and Lucas Digne didn't really provide width. What I will say about Unai Emery, and I wish Eddie Howe had this in him, the 4 changes made at half-time significantly improved Aston Villa. Aston Villa did look better in the second half. They created a little bit more, and they were having shots. They were having shots in that second half. So I like that about Unai Emery. If you're not on it, he's going to make changes. And that's a ruthless nature of Unai Emery. Whether you won the game or not, that's an extremely big positive for Aston Villa. But I just don't think it was right to start Garcia today. I would have personally started Unana and started Bogard at right back, because Unana would have just added some bite in that midfield, and that's what Aston Villa needed today. Because like I mentioned earlier, Wolves want to overrun you in midfield. They want to win that midfield battle. And I think that's how you beat Wolves. We've seen it when Newcastle United, when Joe Linton, Bruno and Tonali won that midfield, and it allowed the wingers to express themselves. Personally, that's what I would have done today. I don't know how fit Unana was, because I didn't check before the game, but personally, I would have definitely started with Unana. I don't think it was a bad performance from Aston Villa. I just think it was tired performance from Aston Villa. I think they lacked that creativity in the final third. Villa picked up massively in the second half, still found control of the game. That's a positive. When you go away to Wolves in the Midlands derby, if you're controlling the game, you've got that quality. But again, I just thought they looked leggy, and they just couldn't find that bit of spark, that bit of magic. And when you've got a player like Rashford coming in, for example, or João Felix, he can provide that spark, that magic in games like this. But getting on to some players, I thought McGinn, Rodgers and Ramsey weren't at the races today. And I think with bringing Rodgers inside, when you play with three centre-backs, as well as Ollie Watkins, as well as Morgan Rodgers, there's no space. There's no space to move or to receive the ball. That's why I'm saying you've got to use the width. Sometimes a little bit of tactical adjustments go a long way in games like this. And the best formation to play against a three at the back is a 4-3-3. And I think Aston Villa have got the players to play a 4-3-3. You could have brought John McGinn into the midfield alongside Jacob Ramsey and had Morgan Rodgers and one other in a front three with Ollie Watkins. Ollie Watkins came off for an injury. We don't know how bad it's going to be, but isn't it funny that Ollie Watkins is never injured, never ever injured. Then as soon as you sell John Duran, Ollie Watkins get injured. But look, I don't think it was a bad. It's hard to say because Aston Villa controlled the game. So to say they were absolutely terrible isn't right. But to say they just lacked that bit of magic, that bit of spark, that's probably a better way of putting it. But like I mentioned earlier, I want to give my mango of the match. And to be honest, I don't want to give it anybody because I don't think anyone was good. I thought Bellegarde was good for Wolves. I thought Wolves defended really well. But I'm going to give it to Yuri Tillemans, and I'll tell you why. Because I thought he was the one that did bring a bit of life and soul to this Aston Villa side. He was happy to receive the ball deep. He was being progressive in his play. He was trying to be positive. He was trying to take risks with his passing. And I just thought Yuri Tillemans had a very good game today, especially in that second half. And if everybody had the enthusiasm and the energy of Yuri Tillemans, you probably would have won this game today. So definitely Yuri Tillemans for my mango of the match. But to be honest, I want to hear from Aston Villa fans. I'm going to make a video on Marcus Rashford tomorrow on my thoughts. I'm going to analyse where he can play, where he can set up, will he link up well with which type of player. But I want to hear your thoughts. What do you make of that performance? Do you just put it down to being in the Champions League and not having the squad depth? Or is it more concerning than that? Let us know in the comments below. But until tomorrow, appreciate you all watching. Thank you very much for accepting us, Villa fans. But let's stay positive because the season can still be a very good season. So until next time, up the Villa.